I'm curious to know from your perspective, what does reconciliation with this history of slavery mean to you?
Is you have to expound on a reconciliation as far as how I feel that people were enslaved. Is that what you're saying? How am I dealing with that? Or I guess I don't understand the question.
That's okay. More so of what do you feel is an appropriate response in considering addressing the oppression of people being enslaved
Oh,
here in the present?
I see what you're saying. Well, there should be recognition that it took place, number one. Now, I know a lot of people, hey, I had nothing to do with that. Well, hold on now. We ain't talking 1800 stuff here. We're talking like 50s, 60s, to some extent in some parts of this country, the 70s, when it comes right down to it. So it's not that they were slave, but they were just almost treated, saying, well, that was my ancestors. I had nothing to do with that, or that type of thing. I think that people have to understand that, first of all, it was a long time ago and things are going to change. And is this country going to look like it is 100 years from now? Who knows? Type of thing. And it's a shame that they were enslaved, and it's even more a shame that a lot of blacks were responsible for that enslavement as far as being sold off in Africa and other different places, type of deal. Um, but once they got there, once that got all settled through, I think there's still people that can't. I mean, they don't want to go back to slavery. I don't believe that anymore. But I think they're getting very nervous of the United States losing its whiteness. We'll just say, where that was because pretty soon Hispanics and other people of color are going to take over that number one position. And I think there's a deal with, and it's not so much, all right, let's say people of color are now the majority. Well, that doesn't mean that or it shouldn't mean that, all right, we're the majority now, so everything we say goes. I don't think it's like that. But I think people are a little nervous about that they're losing their grip on what they thought should be their right, or what is owed, not necessarily owed to them, but we're the kings here when it comes right down to it. And you guys are just here because we brought you here. If we didn't bring you here, you'd be over there doing something. No, that's not necessarily how this whole thing works. But I think there needs to be a, not for everybody, but there needs to be an understanding that, yeah, it took place, and the whole reparations thing, I think that's kind of, I don't know how you reconcile that. Now, the deal that happened in Oklahoma, Tulsa, that's a damn shame what they did to those two women, to say the least. I mean, 90, I mean, what were they, 103 and 107 or whatever they were? Tragic. And you hear the story, well, it wasn't me, I was 100, I had nothing to do with it. Well, yeah, but all that property that was taken is still there. Yeah, you may not have had something to do with it, but you're basically living on stolen stuff, So if you're happy with that, that just shows what type of man or you are. But as far as, well, we're going to slave these people, so now what we should do? Well, let's just give everybody $50,000 or whatever. Well, that's really not going to do it. I would think, and how can you prove it? How can you prove this was my land and was taken away from my, at this point, great grandfather, or in some cases, great great grandfather? How are you going to reconcile that? You really can't. So I don't know what the solution would be, but it's definitely got to be, hey, this is just like the women's right to vote, the blacks' right to vote. No, this is just how this country has evolved, or is evolving, and in the right way. Well, starting to backslide with Mr. Trump, but you can edit that if you want. But
I
wouldn't dare.
but that man's absolutely crazy. But it some people you just can't convince. it's like the guy that, what am I supposed to say to the guy that said, how do your children handle the heat? What do you say to somebody like that? You don't. So
Would you